refresh my memory and how that works. It seems to be I'm looking for a certain thing on here. There it is. You see it right there? That shows that we're recording. So we're allegedly recording now. So to summarize the last 20 minutes, we've been going over the syllabus and I've introduced myself. We've talked about office hours. We've talked a little bit about the curriculum of this class. There's going to be some changes. And I just want to finish going over the syllabus. We're at 10 minutes after 2. I've got another half hour. If we get a little bit into some class material, fantastic. If not, I'm not going to be too worried about it. Because as I mentioned, I freed up a little bit of space for us by shortening the material a little bit. Because I really thought the last 2 semesters I was rushing it a little bit much at the beginning of the term. And as I think I also mentioned earlier, chapter 1, just so you're aware of it ahead of time, chapter 1 is enormously long. It's easily long enough for 2 chapters. I guess they were trying to do a summary of the most important parts of Gen Chem, at least for this class, all in 1 chapter. Normally, most organic textbooks do that in 2 chapters. Yours wanted to do it in 1. So that's why that chapter is so long. And we'll talk more about that as we get into the chapter. So let me go back to the syllabus. So as I was saying, come to class, you know. That being said, since I'm going to be recording the classes, including even today's, and my plan is to put them up in my YouTube channel, which is called R86 Chemistry, for various historical reasons in my life that would bore you to tears. There's no reason we should go there. But I mentioned it right here in the syllabus, R86 Chemistry. There you will also, by the way, find my lectures from a year ago. The curriculum's a little different. There's going to be those 2 chapters that we covered then that we're not covering now. You'll easily know if you're watching one of those lectures because it will be referring to material that's not in the syllabus. So beyond that, the material should be pretty similar, but I want to get used to recording our classes. My worst case scenario was if the thing crashed and burned today. Of course, I still don't know for 100% sure that this is working. If it does work, then I will trim the video and try to get it up on YouTube at least sometime this week. What I'll do is I'll make a new playlist for this semester's class, but you can find Fall 2020's class on my YouTube channel, and you're welcome to look at those videos too. So anyway, my feeling is hopefully this will give us some flexibility. You get a cold, or heaven forbid you test positive for COVID, which by the way, if you do, I had COVID myself. It was very mild and uncomplicated. Perhaps I was lucky. If it happens to you too, God forbid, I hope your experience is as mild and uncomplicated as mine was, but now you have to isolate. No problem. You can just view the lectures when I put them up on YouTube. Or like I said, even if it's just a cold, maybe you've got a cold and so you don't want to give it to your classmates, by all means, Zoom into class. We have that option. Now, that being said, I want to be very sure that I stress this enough. It is not just from my department head, but all the way from the provost's level, that I am not permitted to make this class online or hybrid. It's strictly forbidden. So officially, this class is in person only. That being said, if you want to Zoom in, I see some people, about 2 people already have. So if that's you, hi. Please be aware, I am probably not going to answer questions in chat, at least officially. So I'm not going to be able to interact in chat like I did. I taught the class in hybrid format a year ago. That was a disaster, by the way. No one came to class by the end, and who could blame them, you know? But this class is in person. Thank God we're back to in-person classes. You know, did you guys love online classes? My guess is most of you didn't. So let's take advantage of being back in person and let's come to class. But, you know, I understand you're going to miss classes occasionally, or, you know, if you're away on a trip and you're free during class time and you want to Zoom in, go ahead. Please feel free by all means. it should be available. I also know with this group that a lot of you are going to have university activities and miss some classes. You're fine. You can watch the video later. But if it's not something like that, please come to class. Do yourself, I mean, it's no skin off my nose, right? I know the material already. If you want me to, sort of an arrogant thing for me to say, but it's true. But so it doesn't hurt me directly, but come to class. Let's at least try this for a few weeks. I will reserve the right to require attendance. If I make that decision, it will be pretty soon, like in like 2 weeks. And if attendance just craters, you know, then I suppose I'll have to do that. I really don't want to, though. I think I can trust you guys. And so hopefully we can leave it like that. That being said, I might very well use some of the material that I've used for previous clicker sessions, just to give you guys some sort of in-class exercises type of things. Why not, right? I have it available. I've already made it. So I don't think we'll do it today, but maybe starting next time or maybe Friday, we'll start doing that. But you know, it's there. You might as well use it. Change it up just from me talking at you constantly. Good. So these things I think you can read on your own. Now, as for the OWL assignments, the online homework, I've had some questions on that. So we do have an online homework system. It is moderately decent. I've had much worse than this system. That's not to say it's perfect. There are going to be those times when you feel like you're putting the correct answer and it's not counting it right. That's going to be, by the way, different questions for different students. So I have a policy in place to take care of all that. But before I get to that, in terms of signing up for OWL, I believe there's 2 choices. You can just sign up for this class. And I think you'll get information on how to do that with your textbook. If you have trouble with doing that, it sounds like I'm pushing you off, but I'm not. If you have trouble with signing up for OWL, I recommend you call their customer service, which in my experience has actually been pretty good. I've had pretty positive experiences when past students of mine have had trouble with the OWL system. You might also be familiar with, if you've looked into OWL at all, you might be familiar with, what is it called? Cengage Unlimited or something like that. We don't usually recommend people buy that unless you're using multiple Cengage products in multiple classes. Then it might make sense for you to get that. But weigh the options, weigh the prices. Some of you, for reasons I don't entirely understand, some of you may need a course key in order to get into OWL, and some of you will not. It might even just be that the people who just sign up for this class need a course key, and the people with Cengage Unlimited don't. It might be as simple as that, but I don't completely understand why. So now, let me see. I thought I put that on Canvas. I don't see it here. So I want to be sure that that's in the syllabus. So that's one of the changes I'm going to make, is to put, it's further down. So I put it in the wrong place, probably. Well, be that as it may. Or do you see it here and I'm just blind? That's very likely. Oh, it was? Okay. Well, anyway, as long as you guys have it if you need it. I've looked up the course key and made it available for you guys. That's the main thing. So just also so you know what to expect when things will be due. My first semester here, I did OWL with my Chem 227 class, and I made everything due on Monday. And people started complaining, can we move it to Tuesday? So I moved it to Tuesday. You see where this is going. They then started complaining, can I move it to Wednesday? There's no good day. There's no way to make everyone happy in terms of when it's due. So you can expect in general that OWL assignments will be due Fridays. My idea behind that is I want you to get it over and done with and have the weekend for other things. I am not anticipating that anything will be due this week for a grade. I might make the so-called introductory assignments due, but they will not be graded. And you should be able to see that clearly with each assignment. It will say not graded. So anything that does not say not graded, you can assume is graded. And the types of assignments that are generally graded, not always, but generally, come in two flavors. There's the, I think in your class, they're called review questions and or something like that. And then there's also the mastery assignments. The mastery assignments, as I recall, I might be getting this wrong. I'll correct myself later if I do. But if I recall correctly, the mastery assignments are kind of looser. You get like 10 tries and each problem is like 3 parts to it, and you only need to get 2 of the 3 right to pass it. So it's pretty easy. The other assignments are meant to be a little more like quizzes. So you might not have 10 tries and you might not get all the hints and feedback. I will say in general, since I get a lot of questions about this, you should be able to get feedback and correct answers on anything after the deadline. So once the deadline is passed, you're free to go back and review that assignment as much as you like, take it as many times as you like, and it should, that's at least in theory how it's supposed to work. After the deadline, you should be able to get full feedback on every assignment, but I don't anticipate anything will be due this week for a grade. But like I said, I might make the introductory assignments. They're good to look at. They show you how to answer each type of question correctly in order to get credit for it. So it's useful, but it will not be graded. Most of the other 2 types of assignments will be graded, though you might occasionally get a mastery assignment that's not graded. And sometimes what happens is they just don't give me enough questions. You know, maybe they'll only give me 4 questions. And I don't like making those graded. I feel it's too much pressure. So basically, I guess my message to you for now is if it says not graded, you can always trust that. I will never, ever change not graded to graded. I think that's kind of what people are worried about when they ask. If it says not graded, it's not graded. You can always trust that. But if it doesn't say not graded, then it's graded. So I anticipate your first assignments will probably be due a week from Friday. Let me see. Yes, because a week from Friday on the 10th, we're already starting chapter 2. So we should be done with the chapter 1 material. There may be some weeks where you get a bye week and nothing is due. So if nothing's due, nothing's due. Congratulations. I will try my best not to make more than 1 chapter due in any given week. I just don't know how it's going to fall. It might occasionally be necessary, but I'll try my best not to make more than 1 chapter of assignments due in any given week. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if once or twice you get a bye week, and so nothing's due. Good. So, last thing on OWL, and see, already there's only 15 minutes left. I never, even after 23 years, I never cease to amaze myself at how much I can talk. Oh, well. I guess I'm in the right job then. So in terms of grading of the OWL assignments, you'll find this when, there's the grading portion. So currently I have OWL being 15% of your grade. If I reverse my policy in attendance, that will go down to 10% of your grade, and attendance and class participation will be the other 10%. And I'll just juggle these other things accordingly. But like I said, I'm not going to leave you hanging. If I do need to change that policy, you'll know within a couple of weeks or so. But currently it's 15% of your grade. And so if I did this right, this should all add up to 1,000 points. 150 and 640 is 790 plus 210. Yep, that's 1,000. So the way I work this is that, and I forget where in the syllabus I put this, but I know it's in the syllabus. There it is. In terms of your OWL grade, you only need to average 70% in order to get full points at the end of the term. And you'll notice that doesn't even mean you need to get 70% in every assignment. It just means you need to average 70% at the end of the term. And I'll scale that at the end of the term like it says here. And if your average is at least 70%, you'll get full 150 out of 150 at the end. Now, you will not get extra credit for scores higher than 70%, but you only need to average 70%. That takes all the pressure away, because I don't want your experience with OWL to be about point getting. I want it to be about practicing. Organic chemistry is not a subject that you can master unless you practice a lot. You need to practice in order to succeed in this class. And that's what it's really about. It's not really so much about exam prep, and I certainly don't want it to be about point getting. I want it to be about getting practice in on the material that we've covered in class. That's what the OWL assignments are for. Now, I would say if you are doing well on the OWL assignments, it's a good sign. I can't say it guarantees you good scores in the exams, but it's a good sign. I have never heard of a student, I've never had a student tell me that they did poorly on OWL and did well on exams. I've certainly never seen that direction. So I think it's at least a good sign, but the goal is to get practice. That's what the OWL assignments are for. So let's see, I think that's enough about OWL. In terms of exams, I believe we'll have 4-hour exams. All of them will be counted at the end of the term. I always get people in the term, Dr. Was, didn't you say you were going to drop one of the exams? No, I didn't say that. No one said that. So they will all count. And then we'll have a final exam as well that will be cumulative. And as it says in the syllabus, they will be multiple choice. Let the record show I am not a big fan of multiple choice exams. The only good thing about them is that we grade them quickly, and I will be grading them myself, obviously, by feeding them to the machine. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of having to write multiple choice questions. I'm not a fan of doing that to students, although there's probably about 10 or 20% of you that kind of like multiple choice tests, because it takes all types in this world. And for better or worse, being able to take multiple choice exams successfully is kind of a skill you're going to be stuck with for at least a little while. You might be going on to graduate school and have to take board exams to get in there. Even I occasionally have to take multiple choice tests for this or that reason. So it's something we're kind of stuck with. A bit of advice in general about multiple choice exams that I can give you. Generally, I find students fall into one of two categories. It's an oversimplification, but I generally find this. Some students do what I do when I take a multiple choice exam, which is I read like a third of the question, go, oh, it's B. So you rush it. You don't get all the information. So if you're like that, then people like us, we need to slow down, read the instructions, read the whole question once or twice or 3 times, and then we answer the question. So that's the mistake I usually make. Other students tell me they make the opposite mistake and they overthink it when they take a multiple choice exam. I hear that a lot. So if you know that about yourself, then that's helpful information. You know that at some point you've got to go, no, I've thought this through, it's D, and you move on, right? So something like that, you do it whatever works, whatever way works best for yourself. But at least you have that information going into it. There's a good study guide for each chapter at the end of the chapter. I have prepared, I have it somewhere, and I'll make it available to you guys as the time gets closer. I've prepared some sample questions from past exams. I know people expect that nowadays. You have to understand that I'm not going to give you all the questions ahead of time, or even the majority of the questions ahead of time. Right? This is university level. We have to have some standards here. But I've made available some past questions from some exams. So I have that somewhere, and I'll make sure that's up on Canvas at some point. I don't have it there yet, but it will appear eventually. The question I always get now, and I want to say it, and I want to answer it now while it's in my mind and while it's in everyone else's mind. Question I always get, will I curve the exams? Everyone's listening? Yes, I will curve the exams. You have to curve multiple choice exams. You have to, or the results don't make any sense. When I looked up information on how to curve multiple choice exams, the majority of the smart people in the topic seemed to say that the best way to do it is with what they call a linear transformation, which sounds absolutely dreadful. It's not a big deal. What it means is that you take every person's raw score and you do 2 things. First, you multiply everyone's raw score by some multiplying factor. In our case, I'm going to want each exam to add up to 160 points. So I'm going to multiply by some factor to get us in that ballpark. Because there's not going to be 160 questions, right? God forbid. We only have 50 minutes. Maybe we'll use 55 minutes. Exam days might give you a few extra minutes. The smart people in the topic say no more than one, or rather no less than 1 minute per question, meaning not 10 seconds per question. You get what I mean. So that gives you an idea of how many questions there'll be in a typical exam. I would be shocked if there's more than 60, if we're going to 55 minutes. So we have limited time. So we first need to stretch the results of the exam by using some multiplying factor on everyone's grade. And then after that, you also add a flat curve to everyone's grade. And the reason you need to do both is because if you don't use some kind of stretching factor, it's unfair to the people at the top of the class on that exam. You wind up with a bunch of people getting Bs who really deserve As. But you can't go too far, or then it's just piling on to the people who did poorly on that particular exam. So you really need both in order to make it fair. But yes, just so I don't need to answer that question 20 more times, yes, the exams will be curved. I anticipate what will happen is after each exam, as soon as I have it, I'll post everyone's raw scores out of however many questions there were on Canvas. I need to address this ahead of time. When you see your raw score, don't panic. Remember that multiple choice averages tend to be quite low. You can expect in general, if it's much higher than 50%, that's usually a good sign. And that's because there's no partial credit in the multiple choice exam. I did say I'm not a huge fan of multiple choice tests. So that's one of the reasons why. So please don't email, I love you guys, you should email me, but after an exam, for that particular thing, don't email me in a panic after just seeing your raw score. Wait until I've thought about it a couple days and I've set what the curve's going to be, and then you'll see what your curved score is out of 160. And that's what I'll use in calculating grades. But don't panic at the initial sight of your raw scores. Generally, if you get significant, you want to see how you compare to the average, certainly. I'm making up numbers. Let's say on the first exam, I'm totally making up numbers. Let's say in the first exam, there's 60 questions and the average is 35. I'm just making this up off the top of my head. And you got 39. You're above the average. You can sleep tonight. You know, that's how you should think about it. You know, you got 48, great. You know, that should at the very least be a high B, and you've got a shot at an A. So that's kind of, but don't worry, I will always curve every exam. You have to curve multiple choice exams or the results don't make any sense. Where are we at? I have 6 minutes left. I think that's the bulk of the information on the class. So we might be able to do a little bit of class material today. You see the schedule for each day. This is how I think it's going to go. This is for my benefit as well as for your benefit. We may not follow this exactly. You know, I might be off a little bit, but I think I'll be able to mostly stick to this schedule. This way you'll know what to read ahead of time for each class. You know, and I do expect you'll have done the reading for each day. Maybe, I mean, if we get some material, great. Maybe we can at least define organic chemistry before we leave. Probably a couple other things I should say before we go on, just that are coming to mind here. And I've also learned, by the way, from years of past experience, I'm not going to remember every single thing in my so-called syllabus lecture. There's going to be a few things I forget and have to announce later. You know, I'm human. I make mistakes. But I think two other things then that occur to me. One of them is, and of course it just went out of my head, fantastic. Great, I've already reached that certain age. Well, no, I think what I was going to say was one expectation I want to set at the very beginning is you need to understand that not every single thing that you need to know for exams is going to come out of my mouth in class. There's just not time. I cannot talk that fast. What I spend lecture time on is those topics which, in my experience, students struggle the most with and need the most explanation and examples. But not every single thing is going to come out of my mouth. That being said, one thing I also like to say, the process of writing an exam for me, I mean, I don't usually write them very far ahead of time, but I don't mind being transparent about that. It's no big secret. When I write an exam for this class, I'm going to sit down and got to make up multiple choice questions, so there's that issue. But what would you do if you're teaching a class and you're going to write an exam? What are going to be the first things that come to your mind? Probably what you talked about in class, right? So there's going to be some questions on some things that we didn't talk about in class. I would be shocked if it's half the exam. There'll be some, but I think the things that will come to my mind first are the things we talked about in class, right? So it's no big secret, and I don't think that should be a surprise to you guys. What other general advice can I give you on organic chemistry? One thing I always like to say the first day of organic chemistry that in my experience will make about 85% of you rejoice, not 100, but the vast majority. And you might not have been aware of, there is very, very little math in organic chemistry. Very little, almost none. Mainly what we use, so I would say your days of word problems, and I've taught Gen Chem, so I know how those go. 750 milliliter sample of an ideal gas is heated from, you remember, your days of that are over. I anticipate that you won't need a calculator in general on exams. If you want to bring one, you may, but I don't think you'll need it. Usually the joke we tell is if you can count to 4, you're in pretty good shape because carbon has 4 bonds, which gets me to what we mainly do use in organic chemistry, which is not math, is structure drawing. And we're going to start getting into that in the next class, I think. You have to be able to draw structures and draw them quickly and correctly in order to succeed in this class. And even though I'm not going to be grading your structure drawing directly because the exams are multiple choice, you'd best be aware from the beginning. That's one of the main skills we'll use in this class. That's how organic chemists communicate, is by drawing structures of molecules. So that's one thing. Another thing I've been thinking about a lot over this summer, just something I've learned about my teaching style, or maybe my personality is a better way of putting it. One thing I've noticed is when students ask questions like, on the exam, if I put X, Y, and Z, will I lose points? I get questions like this a lot, and I'm still at this point in my career learning how to answer questions like that and answer them well and not get mad at the student. Maybe that will kind of take care of itself because our exams are multiple choice. So it's kind of a moot point. But I'll end sort of the introduction. Maybe we'll at least define organic chemistry, and then I think we'll be done for the day. But one bit of advice I can say, if you want to kind of get at that sort of question, let me suggest ways of asking that question that I think will get at what you want to hear, that I think are a little more constructive. I encourage students to ask, what does it look like to have mastered the material at a level that will allow me to put the right answers in the exam? You might leave that last part off, but at that level. What does that look like to have mastered the material at an appropriate level? And here's another question I think you'd like answered in general, and I'll try to remember to answer it in my lectures. What do I have to do to get there? That's always a good question to ask. You may always ask me questions like that. And like I said, I'll even try to anticipate questions like that. Good, so we've got like 1 minute at most, not even really that. Let's at least define organic chemistry, right? That'll only take us 30 seconds. Well, I hope in your Gen Chem classes you define chemistry. And I hope your professor said something like, chemistry is the study of matter and the changes it undergoes. Something like that. With the understanding that matter is that which has mass and takes up space. And we also have to be picky about the type of changes we're talking about. We're talking chemical changes. We're not talking about physical translation, right? What about organic chemistry? And we'll end with this. is the study of, usually they say the study of carbon compounds. There's a problem with that though. I'm going to say instead the study of compounds whose properties, maybe this is getting a little too long, are overwhelmingly impacted by the presence of carbon and hydrogen. Those are going to be mainly what we talk about, is compounds that have a lot of carbon and hydrogen in them. There may be other elements. Organic compounds can have oxygen or nitrogen or even phosphorus or sulfur in them. As to where we draw that line, that's hard to say. I don't know if I can give you a hard, bright line. You know, sodium bicarbonate is an inorganic compound, but it has carbon in it. But it's a salt, like sodium chloride. So where do you draw the line? I don't know if I'm comfortable drawing a hard, bright line, but at some point, there's enough carbon and hydrogen that you've got yourself an organic compound. And that is a good place to hydrogen. That's a good place to stop. So I will see you all on Wednesday.